Hi there, students. I'm XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra sweet, because that's what I am. I've always been interested in the time between seasons. I really like transition periods. Change is really important. Some people are, of course, afraid of change, but actually, I think that embracing change is something that makes us so much stronger. It probably won't surprise you to know that I'm the type of puppy who does a lot better when I have a routine. Obviously, that's why I have my video release schedule organized the way that I do. I always know what I should be doing each day. But also, I think it's important to be ready to pivot when the plan goes off the rails. My approach to life tends to be have a plan, but don't become so stuck in the plan that you're not able to course correct when things don't go your way. Anyway, for today, we're going to be talking about the weather. This is going to be a relatively straightforward vocabulary lesson. I'll teach you some new words, we'll talk a bit about some kanji concepts, and we'll have a few laughs. Low stress. I kinda need a low stress period after that thunderstorm last week. Ugh. Anyway, let's get into it. Ikimashou! Okay, so today we're talking about the weather. The word that I've written on the board for you is tenki yoho. That means weather report. But actually, I really want to break down this word very carefully for you. Let's go through it piece by piece and see if we can really carefully understand the meaning. 10. This first kanji that we're going to look at here is one that can mean the skies or the heavens. It's going to be pronounced amatsu, ame, or ama when it's on its own, but in a compound it would usually be pronounced ten. Now, until now, I've been teaching that usually when you have a kanji in isolation, you're going to use the kunyomi pronunciation, and usually when you have a kanji used in a compound, you're going to use the onyomi pronunciation. The thing about that is, sometimes the meaning conveyed by the kanji is a little bit broad. I'm going to try to highlight what I'm talking about here with an example. Here I've said that the ten kanji I'm showing can also be pronounced ame when it's used alone, right? Well, ame also means rain in Japanese. So does that mean that you could have a sentence like ame kara no ame, rain from the sky? Yes, you can. But it sounds a little strange in Japanese because for two reasons. Actually, even if I were to see this sentence, I might still say ten kara no ame because it sounds a bit better, and even though that 10 isn't in a compound, I might still use 10 even when it's by itself, right? That just takes practice. But also, like, remember that Japanese really cares about context, right? So if we have a sentence like ten kara no ame, well, where else is the rain possibly going to be coming from except from the sky? And so that sentence kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because, like, of course the rain is coming from the sky. It's not going to come from my shoe, you know. Besides, there's actually another kanji that is much more common for sky anyway. Sora. This to me is one of the things that makes Japanese so interesting, but I also think that it can be a little bit of a headache for new learners who are specifically trying to learn vocabulary. See, with any kanji, you might have meanings that are expressed through the kanji, as in the idea of sky that is conveyed with the kanji ten. But just because that's technically what that kanji kind of implies, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be the best word to use in most cases. When I think about this idea, I think about English words that have a very large scope over certain meanings versus other words that have a much smaller scope over certain meanings. Think about the word light in English. Light itself is a concept, right? We know what light is. We know that we can't really see without light, and the absence of light is dark. We all know what light is, but in addition to being a concept of its own, light is also really frequently used as part of a word, like sunlight, or to highlight, or to use a lighter, or lightning. Let's not talk about lightning. Anyway, while some kanji convey the idea of a particular concept, they might have a really, really wide scope. Remember, the job of a kanji is really to carry both meaning information and sound information. Generally speaking, kanji get more specific when used in a compound, but are typically more broad when they're used in isolation. Kanji compounds containing the ten kanji will usually relate to the sky, the heavens, anything that might be from up there, like angels. But by combining that kanji with other kanji, we can create situations that are maybe a bit more specific and might be more tailored to exactly what it is that we're trying to say. Here are some compounds that include this kanji. Tenno. This word means emperor, and often specifically the Emperor of Japan. Why? Because the Japanese emperor was once thought to be one of divine figure who came from the heavens, literally a heavenly emperor, because that's what these kanji quite literally mean. Tensai. Tensai means something like an astrological disaster, a natural catastrophe, damage from the sky. That's important when Japan is a nation that is often battered by storms. Tenjo. Tenjo means ceiling. It's literally the cross pattern of the structure that's above your head, right? So that's where that 10 is coming from. I hope you're seeing the point that I'm trying to make. With kanji, a thing that's going to be a big part of the meaning that comes across in a word is actually really coming from the interplay between two or more kanji characters. Not necessarily just from the character itself, but also like the way you pronounce it will be based on the character that it comes with. And the meaning will also kind of be based on the character that it's with. So in a kanji that might have kind of a very broad meaning, that meaning is going to become more specific when it's paired with another kanji. That's why a lot of kanji compounds come in 2s or 4s. They kind of come in pairs, and they get a lot of their information from the pair that they're with. It's through the pairing of two different kanji that words are most often made. So, like ten or ame by itself is a word meaning sky. Yeah, it definitely is. But it's not the best word for sky because on its own, it's actually carrying too much information. And it really wants to do just the work of saying, like, up there, somewhere. Anyway, next we're going to look at another example of a very broad kanji. This is a kanji with a lot of meanings. Ki is one of a smaller number of kanji that actually have the same kunyomi and onyomi. It's usually almost always going to be pronounced ki, whether it's used in isolation or when it's used within a compound. But ki carries so many different implications. It has so many meanings, and it's used in such a wide array of topics. Let's look at a few. Ki ni naru is a verbal expression that means to have something weighing on your mind. If we break it down, it's almost implying that something becomes your feeling, right? So it's ki, feeling, ni naru, to become. It takes up your thoughts to such a degree that it starts to become part of who you are. Kiatsu, literally the pressure of the air. Ki can mean quite simply the air itself, but just like we saw previously with ten, even though ki can mean the air, kaze can also mean the air or wind. Kaze feels more specific, and so it's used more often when referring just to the air by itself. One more example. Kishitsu. Kishitsu means one's personality, their temperament, the quality of their spirit. Because ki means spirit, and shitsu means like a substance or a quality. So tenki, together from our larger compound tenki yoho, means weather, the feel of the heavens, right? Now, let's quickly look over the other two kanji in tenki yoho. Yo. It usually covers the idea of something that happens before something else, a precursor, if you will. We're going to use this kanji often in compounds like Yosan, estimate. Yote, a plan, a schedule, or some kind of expectation. Or yoshu, which means preparations you might have to do before a class lesson. Oftentimes, your sensei might expect you to do some kind of yoshu before your Japanese lessons. That might include filling out worksheets or, doing your homework. Students, do you think I should assign homework? Sound off in the comments. The other half of yoho is ho. This kanji is used in a lot of kanji compounds that convey the idea of news or giving a report in some way. For example, joho means information. And that's the only example that I'm giving you for ho. I've made my point, I think. So when we put all four of these parts together, what are we actually getting from this kanji compound tenki yoho? Tenki means weather. It's the mood of the sky. Is the sky feeling happy and sunny or moody and rainy? Although, actually, I prefer the rain anyway. Light rain, not thunderstorms. Well then, yoho means like a prediction. It's a preview of information. It's information that you're getting beforehand. So a tenki yoho in Japanese is a weather report because it's foreknowable information about what the weather is going to be. The next concept that I would like to introduce to you are the seasons. We know that the weather and seasons are very closely tied to one another. You wouldn't expect to get snow in the middle of summer. Like, unless you live in a place where it snows in the summer, which is valid, I guess. Shout out to all my fans watching from Antarctica, I guess? Anyway, based on where you live and based on what time of year it is, the weather is going to be different. So yeah, this word is kisetsu. Kisetsu means the seasons or the time of the year. You might also see shiki. Although I absolutely get the sense that shiki is going to show up in more like charts of the season. Like it reminds me of something that I would see like in a kindergarten class or something like that, right? It's like the charts of the season, and I wouldn't necessarily think that I would hear it much in conversation. A quick search tells me that kisetsu is about 5 times more common in conversational use than shiki is. And that pretty much squares with what I hear conversationally and what I believe. Anyway, in Japanese, the 4 seasons are natsu, which means summer. Summers are stupid hot in Japan. Very humid, sometimes kind of a little bit miserable. Remind me sometime and I'll tell you the story of the time that I was terribly sunburned on Mount Fuji. Haru, spring, which is when cherry blossom season is in Japan. Aki, autumn, my personal favorite season. And Fuyu, winter, when it snows. Students, have I talked to you about how much I dislike the Tale of Genji? If you don't know, Genji Monogatari is probably one of the world's oldest novels, and it has some themes in it that personally make me feel very, very icky. Genji basically decides to groom a very young girl to become his wife because he thinks that women are imperfect and he needs to be able to shape her to be the perfect woman, and that's gross. Like extremely, extremely gross. And yeah, okay. Anyway, but one of the things that I actually do find extremely cool about the Tale of Genji is that at one point, Genji, who actually has 4 wives, builds an estate, and for each one of his wives, one of which was the one that he groomed, icky, but yeah, each one of his wives gets her own wing of this estate, and she also gets her own themed garden, and each of these wings in the garden corresponds to one of the 4 seasons of the year, each one relating to the personality of the girl in question. So you have like burning passion for summer, new growth for spring, changing colors for autumn, and solemnity for winter. Anyway, it's pretty cool, but I don't know, just in general, Genji is a bit of a creep. So he does like one good thing. He does one good thing, and that's to build a house, which is not something that you can do anymore because none of us can afford a house. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. I think if we're going to have a weather report, then we probably need some vocabulary related to weather, don't we? Um, yeah, yeah. Anyway, weather vocab, weather words. Let's learn some. Ame. This is ame. I talked about rain before. Ame means rain. I already told you earlier, so I hope you were paying attention, but this is ame. Remember, I love rain, but I don't like the thunders. I also don't like fireworks, but you actually have to wait for word of the day number 134 before I teach you how to say fireworks in Japanese. Anyway, if you want to say something like rain is falling, then you're going to need a verb. Ame ga futteru. This is literally rain is currently falling. The verb is furu, and I've converted it into the te iru form to convey the idea that the rain is falling right now. Ame ga futteru. Ame, the rain, is a very important concept in Japan. As a result, Japan has a bunch of words for rain. Zazaburi means rain that falls so heavily it bangs against your roof. Jaku is very weak rain. Oame is heavy rain. Those are just a handful of examples. There are dozens and dozens. It's just that rain is very important for growing crops, it's very important for growing rice, and therefore it's very important. Also, it's kind of dangerous because Japan gets a lot of storms. Anyway, I'm rambling again. There's something else that falls from the sky aside from rain, and it's something I love even more than the rain, and that's yuki. Yuki means snow. When snow is falling, you can use the same construction that we used with ame before, as in yuki ga futteru, right? Cloudy weather is also nice sometimes, at least for someone like me who would rather be cuddled under a blankie and looking out the window. Kumori. That means cloudy. Kumo by itself means cloud. Aha! However, students, do you know another word in Japanese that is also pronounced like kumo? What about good weather? I guess that's subjective, isn't it? Well, when the skies are clear, you're going to say hare, clear skies, nice and sunny, if you're into that. Hare desu means something like it's sunny out, while a sunny day would be haretehi. I'm sure that's very exciting for some people, people who love summer, people who love being out on a beach and under the sun and things like that. That's absolutely your prerogative. I'm not going to judge you if you love lots and lots and lots of hot sunlight. Up to you. You can also describe weather as just good or bad, right? Like I said, you can disagree with me about what's good weather and what's bad weather. I personally like cool weather, and I'm not a fan of heat or humidity or things like that. Anyway, good weather in Japanese would be ii tenki, and bad weather in Japanese would be warui tenki. Yeah? So ii is the word that means good, warui is the word that means bad, and you just attach them and describe the weather in that way. Anyway, I think a lot of people don't like fog and mist, which is kiri in Japanese, but I love them. That probably doesn't surprise you. I love the spookiness of the reduced visibility due to a lovely mist rolling down from the mountains. It's so neat and creepy, and it feels just a little bit like dangerous, and that's the kind of thing that makes me excited. I don't know. I'm weird. I know that. Ew. Storms. Ugh. I don't even like thinking about storms, but I do love Arashiyama. So Arashi is the word for storm in Japanese. Arashiyama, yama is a mountain. So Arashiyama, storm mountain. Arashiyama is a region in Japan near Kyoto with an absolutely beautiful bamboo grove. Bamboo grove? I honestly don't know what we call it in English. Bamboo forest? Bamboo jungle? No way, it can't be a jungle. I'm gonna go with bamboo grove. Anyway, I really like Arashiyama, and I also liked the band Arashi, which is a boy band. But I don't like storms. So, for this week's lesson, I just had one more word that I wanted to teach you, but I don't wanna. So yeah, I'm just gonna put it up on the board and leave. You can learn it yourself. You can't expect me to do everything, right? Have some personal responsibility. Hi there, students. So this month, I've canceled all of your quizzes. That's because it's the fun, spooky month, and I wanted to spend my time doing fun things instead of spending all of my time grading your quizzes. Which I don't do. Anyway, I've just been sharing things with you, talking about things that I like. I started out by talking about some neat Japanese monsters, and then last week I gave you a list of my favorite scary movies. I sort of wanted to do all fun stuff for this month because, well, you already know how much I adore the Halloween season, but I kind of just wanted to recreate the nostalgic feeling of a classroom during the holidays when you get to have a little bit of a break and not do so much serious work. Maybe watch a movie or something. For today, instead of doing something super fun, I instead really wanted to do something that's very personal to me. I want to tell you a little bit about my sensei. For privacy's sake, I'm going to need to be just a little bit careful with what I share with you, but as I've told you, I started out as the classroom puppy in this nice teacher's class. She was a pretty amazing teacher. When I was brought into her classroom, she was very new. You could tell that she didn't have a whole lot of teaching experience, but what she did have was this amazingly vibrant energy. She was like a ball of joy and emotion. I absolutely believe that my passion for languages really came from her spirit of will. I want to share with you my favorite story of that beloved teacher. Remember, at the time, I was just a little pup, and I was just helping out here and there, providing emotional support for the students in her class and things like that. One day, I heard the students in her class all talking together and laughing and having a really good time. She wasn't there. I don't remember where she had gone, but it was just me with the students, and they had started to talk about the word atatakakatta in Japanese. Atatakakatta means it was warm. I haven't taught you too much about adjectives yet. Stay tuned, like and subscribe, because adjectives are coming soon. But you should know that in Japanese, adjectives can do the work of tense. In English, tense is only conveyed through verbs. I run, I ran, I will run, etc. But for Japanese, adjectives can either be past tense or present tense. Atatakai is the adjective for warm, and atatakakatta is the adjective for it was warm. Well, these students were talking about how atatakakatta is a very fun word to say. Atatakakatta. Atatakakatta. It's fun. It's just a fun word, isn't it? Fast forward a few days later. My sensei comes in and she gives all the students in the class a test. Bum bum bum. So scary. Somehow, just by some kind of wild coincidence, she had added a bonus question to the test, and the bonus question was, what's your favorite Japanese word that you've learned so far? The students took the test, they handed them in, they left, they took their trains home, they went back to their families, they went about their days, they forgot about the test. Until a couple days later, all the students came into the class, and they were talking like normal. I was there, just kind of in the corner, and suddenly my sensei burst through the door, totally scared me, by the way. Totally freaked me out. You know me, I'm such an anxiety dog. But anyway, she marched right up to her desk and she slammed down the test papers. She was so angry. Her eyes narrowed as she glared out at the students with this like murderous intent. She held up one finger and she said, "You cheated." She was so mad. She said, "I don't know how you did it, but you all cheated. Everyone in this class had the exact same answer for the bonus question. How did you do it?" All the students had answered "atatakakatta" for the bonus question because they had just been talking about it a few days before. That was really the only time I ever saw my sensei being actually legitimately angry. She was just filled with so much emotion and it had just kind of like bubbled up over the surface. And honestly, even though she was really mad, it was really quite cute. And I don't think the students could help but just kind of laugh about it because, I don't know, it was just a funny situation and I remember it fondly. I miss her a lot. I know that she's proud of me. I know that she's proud of what I'm doing. I'm not a perfect teacher. I have a long way to go and a long way to grow. But I'm trying for you. I'm trying because I want to help you to become the best version of yourselves that you can possibly be. I want to help be inspiring to you and your desire to learn the Japanese language the way that my sensei inspired me to learn languages. Listen, I'm not much. At the end of the day, I'm just a puppy, and I'm just trying to do the best that I can. But I adore you all very much. I really want to believe that I've somehow inherited my sensei's spirit of emotion. I'm a new teacher. I'm an imperfect teacher. But I would love to believe that I have a good energy. I hope I do at least. Thank you for listening to my little story. We only have one more Friday left in Dogtober, and I'm planning not one, but two very special things for you. I hope you stay tuned, and I really hope you enjoy. Lead with love, everybody. I've been XS. See you later. Mata ne.